Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, good. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Everybody have good holidays?
Pretty good.
Well, good. Well, this morning we're here to talk about RV maintenance, which can cover a lot of things. Um, so why don't we just start with roof, or the roof. It's probably the most important thing I think you can do as an owner. Most brands that I know of have a sticker or two on them labeled to check your seams and seals every 90 days. The reason being is it's not actually a warrantyable item. It is a maintenance item. What causes the sealers to open up is expansion and contraction from winter to summer. Also road travel. When they go down the road, they twist, flex, and when that occurs, something can split open, and it's generally not going to be the roof split or the sidewall split. It's going to be a sealer open up. So on the roof, we have roof vents, refrigerator vents, antennas, skylights, transition pieces. All those are sealed in with a product called, or similar to, Dicor. It's kind of a sticky substance. So over time, expansion, contraction, flexing, and the other factor is UV rays from the sun tend to dry this out. So when something expands or contracts, it actually splits open. That's when a leak can occur. So when we're inspecting the roof, I generally go right to the front of the camper. Start inspecting the transition piece. If you see like screw heads kind of sticking through or cracks, that would be a great place to apply some self-leveling Dicor. You can clean the area slightly. You're not going to get this stuff perfectly clean. It is really sticky, but it will do its job. Again, on the roof, that is very, very important. We see water damage come in all the time. Generally from the roof, a few plumbing leaks, but mostly the roof area. If you look at fifth wheels or pull behinds where the transition piece or the front cap meets the rubber roof, that is a spot that flexes a lot. And you'll see older campers where the front end's kind of wavy looking or waffly looking. That's from water leaking in. Again, this stuff is really sticky. It's easy to apply. Now, before I go any further, is there any questions about what you're looking for on the Dicor on the roof? You know, if it's a crack and you think it's going to leak, put some on it. Yes, sir. This gentleman was asking what to clean it with before we apply it. A little alcohol pad will work. I really don't use mineral spirits. A little soap and water, or like Dawn, Spick and Span, something like that, would be just fine to clean it with.
So if you actually see a crack, you need to seal that crack.
Yes, sir. On the newer ones, you know, the crack, you can look in.
Can you pop this stuff off and then reseal it around, or does that make it worse?
Okay. This gentleman is asking if we should take the old off and then apply new. At a certain point in time, that's a real good idea. Say, it really depends on how you take care of your roof and where you store it. But say 5, 6 years, you go up there on the roof and the cracks are really deep. And you can definitely notice it when they're really deep. It's like all the way down. At that point in time, it would be best to remove the old and apply new. When you're doing that, they do make a non-sag Dicor for going around the pieces then most people we come back with the self-leveling on top to give this effect. Removing the old is not fun. It can be done. A little tool called a putty buddy is generally what we use. Sometimes a little heat will help, like a hair dryer, maybe on low setting. Don't use a heat gun. It'll get so hot it'll start making the material act funny and get real wavy looking, and you can tear it when it gets hot enough. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not necessarily looking forward to going up on the roof of the RV. And I'm going to be parked at an RV resort. Do they ever have someone that might go up on the roof for me and check it and seal it and do all that? Is that something parks sometimes offer?
Yeah, at the office where you check in, check there. A lot of times you'll see business cards and
Okay.
people that they might recommend in that area that you're at. The other way is to look for a mobile RV service. We check roofs here all the time for customers bringing them in, but most places that I have been to, you'll generally find some kind of help or information there.
Because I don't think it's a real good idea for me to do it. So.
Yeah, it can be dangerous, of course. Heights, anytime you're dealing with heights, it
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you do, be safe. Try to get on the roof when it's dry, when the dew's not on there, of course. Any other questions on the Dicor? All right, while we're up there on the roof, there are a few other pieces I would definitely check. Roof vent cover. The sun bakes these over time, and eventually they'll get where you touch them and they just break into pieces, or they blow off when you're going down the road, and that can be real bad if it happens to be raining when it blows off while you're going down the road. Definitely check, make sure they're in good shape. Also your skylight, check that, and your plumbing vents. You will generally find some little 2-inch round little plastic pieces sticking through the roof. We don't have one on our little board here. Be sure and check those. The same way as this, they will get brittle. We see older ones come in all the time where they have just dilapidated. At that point, rain runs down in the roof without that little cover. So be sure and check the plastic items while you're up there. Same question. The other thing that's on the roof is your AC unit. Now, most of the time, as far as spring maintenance, of course, fire up the AC. In the early spring, if the temperatures are in the 50s and 60s, it's going to feel like it's blowing cold air because it's blowing cold air. But what we want to do is listen for sound. Make sure something hadn't built a nest in it. Dirt daubers, birds even. You want to definitely run and check that. You can remove the cover on the roof. It's usually 4 bolts. Some of them have 6 or 8. The cover pops off. In the tray, you'll see some dust and debris starts building up over time. While you've got that cover off, that can be rinsed out and cleaned. There are actual little weep holes in the bottom of that tray. When you're camping and the AC's on, you'll notice your camper, every once in a while water comes off the roof. That's coming out of the AC. When those stop up, it can build up, and then it starts running inside the camper. So that's not a good thing. That's something, like I say, as far as opening that up, that doesn't necessarily have to be done every year, but before you start your season, you definitely want to listen to it and make sure it's running right and not vibrating and shaking the whole camper. That's what can happen when nests get built into the fans. And that is pretty much what we're inspecting when we're on the roof. ACs every few years, might need a coil clean. I would recommend carrying it to a shop to have that done. It's something you can do yourself if you have the right tools. All right. Any questions on the AC or maintenance on it? All right. Now, cleaning the rubber roof. I really like this product right here. It's a two-step. First step is a cleaner and conditioner. Second step is a UV protectant. To apply or clean the roof, you want to get the right type of brush. You wouldn't want to use this on the sides of your camper. It's got some texture to it or some roughness. Does a great job on the rubber roofs though. The first part you can dilute, scrub down the roof, spray it off. If you have some stubborn spots, use it straight and scrub a little harder, and that should take care of those spots. Now, once you have scrubbed and cleaned the roof, we need to rinse the sides off because we really don't want all that setting on the sides. Now, after it has dried is when you apply the second part, the UV protectant. And you apply that with a little sponge mop. That to me is a big feature or a big key of it. Stopping the sun from damaging the roof is a good thing, definitely. And what that UV protectant does, it gives us another layer of white. This is an old piece that we cut off. But you see how this up top, this white is kind of purplish and stuff? Well, what's happening is the sun's hitting it. This white on here bakes away. That's what it's supposed to do, to protect the rubber underneath. So that UV protectant on a new roof, if you will do that, will extend the life of the roof tremendously. And you will notice if you do that, when the dew's on or it rains, it's kind of like a wax up there. The water beads up, and it's really slick when you get on it when it's wet. It does do a great job. Any questions on cleaning the roof? Pretty simple. And the cleaner you keep the roof, the cleaner the sides will be. That's where black streaks come from, is the roof. Now, if you get up there on your roof and it's got a spots where you're seeing the black through the white, there are coatings, if it's got that far along also, to apply some new white on top of the rubber roof. And I think that is about everything on the roofs. All right, the sides of the unit. We just touched about cleaning. Be sure and use the right brush. One is fiberglass and one is stick and tin or aluminum. There's a little bit of difference. They're very soft. But definitely use the right brush, the right cleaner. Here we use Crown. This is a cleaner though. If you got wax or something like that on there, it'll even take that off. This is a really good cleaner and black streak remover. You can dilute it or on stubborn areas apply it straight. Again, be sure and get the right brush. And on the front, you might notice that bugs, especially on like motorhomes, you know, they are awful to get off. I found this stuff works really well. There's 1,000 brands out there. This happens to be Camco, one we sell in the store. Does a great job for the bugs on the front. As far as waxing, you know, treat it like you would a boat or a car. The wax on the outside of the finish is going to keep it from dulling down, and you might see older campers where they're kind of dull, they've lost their shine. That's where wax comes in, and that's definitely not one of the fun jobs to do either. It's a lot to wax usually. There is some wash and wax combos. It's better than no wax. I'm a fan of them. Anything that's easier. All right, cleaning the sides. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
We were told that the coating that you guys put on the side
MaxGuard well, it's kind of like a wax. But yeah, it's 5 years on that, but you know, it still needs washing. If you have MaxGuard on there, I would use a car wash. You know, something that's not going to take the wax or the MaxGuard off. Just like if you were to wax your truck and then come back with Dawn dishwashing soap and wash it, you've stripped your wax off. Same way with that. I'm a big fan of the MaxGuard. It makes a big difference in my opinion. And we're seeing them several years old now, still holding their shine, and we see some that didn't get it. I mean, it's a big, you can put them side by side and tell a huge difference. Any other questions on the sides? All right, so cleaning the sides. The other part of the sides is you'll notice that most companies use silicone to seal around the compartment doors, the windows, and a lot of times they'll have some putty sticking out in places. Depends on the brands. If you have the putty on the corner beads that are sticking out, you see that start to crack open? Good idea to take a putty buddy, trim it back, and then apply silicone over it. On this little camper here, that's what we've done here. Some brands do that from the factory, some don't. But over time, that putty will crack open just like the Dicor. And of course, a silicone can split open too with enough flex. You're looking for cracks in it. So just like the roof, we're looking for cracks around these areas, around the windows. If you do find a crack, 100% silicone is what we use here. And if you're not real good with a caulking gun, get you a roll of blue tape or painter's tape. Tape off the section you want to do, apply the silicone, and pull the tape off, and you'll have a nice, clean repair. Yes, sir.
You said putty, buddy. Is that a putty knife?
Yeah, it's like a glass worker's tool. It's a soft type plastic. It won't scratch the finish. Even at Harbor Freight, they've got like sets of them with different widths that you can get. Every one of our technicians, we use them a lot around here. Any other questions on that? All right, so we got a few appliances on the sides too. Water heater maintenance. Now, some water heaters have a plug that looks like this. It has an anode rod on it. That is a Suburban brand water heater. There's another type that has a plastic plug. If you happen to have the drain plug like this, when it starts to look like this, it is time for a new one. This stops rust from occurring in that brand of water heater. This decays instead of rust happening. So when this is completely gone, then rust starts happening. So like I say, this one here I would call, you know, personally toward the end of its use. It would still work. I've seen them a lot worse. But at this point in time, no more than they cost, it would be time to get a new one. Now when this decays, that sediment goes into the bottom of the tank. And that's generally where it stays. A little tool like this is great to rinse that out. I have seen some of the campers, 7, 8 years old, that's went through 2 or 3 of those rods, and it messes up the heating in it. This little thing here is great for accessing inside it, and you just rinse the tank thoroughly.
So what do you call that little bit, Bob?
This is a tank rinser, water heater
There you
tank
go.
rinser.
Okay.
$10.99. Now, water heater. The other thing is dirt daubers and wasps like to build nests in our LP appliances. Dirt dauber and wash screens are a great investment for the furnace, especially for the furnace, water heater, and some of the refrigerators that are gas and electric. They make them for all those appliances. Save yourself a lot of headaches. Again, I really like the one on the furnace, if nothing else. Now, the furnace, that's about all you can really do as an owner as far as maintenance. There's no filters, nothing like that. But the way they're designed on the outside of the camper, you'll see two holes or one big square with a hole in the center of it. That's a straight shot into the furnace. So when they get in there, they can build nests pretty much anywhere. And there's only one way to get them out, and that's pull the furnace out. That's why I do recommend that. The water heater, same way, they'll try to get in that. If they do, you can obviously see the outside of the water heater. Just remove the nest, clean the area. You should be fine. And then after appliances, what's left is tires. Tires, we even do a seminar just on them, axles and tires. The date on the tire is very important. 4 years and you need to be getting another set of tires. The dates can be found on the tread wall by the DOT number. It'll be in a shape like this. It'll be 4 digits. First 2 is the week, last 2 are the year. So 15/20 would be the 15th week of 2020 the tire was made. The other thing as far as regular use, check your tire pressure cold, while the tires are cold, while the camper hasn't been moving, before each trip. Some people have tire minders. Those are a great feature. They do a lot more than just that. They can identify a brake dragging, an axle starting to go out, or a bearing in the axle starting to go out. But that tire temperature is very important, and the age has become really important. Tire blowouts are no fun. We see a lot of them now, and have for the past few years. Any questions on your tires? Yes, sir.
How do we know what pressure to set them at? Is it off the tire itself, or is there a sticker on the door or something like that?
Okay, this gentleman's asking how do we know what to set our tire pressure at? I always go by what's on the camper. Usually on the off-door side, or would be the driver's side toward the front of the camper, you're going to find several stickers. Be the VIN, also the tire information is there. Be sure and go by what's on that sticker, because it may be different than what the actual tire says, especially in motorhomes. Class C motorhomes, the front tire pressure is generally different than the rear, and they're the same exact tire. But that's what the manufacturer recommends, so that's what we need to do. Any other questions on the tires?
The pipe tire, is there another size out other than the one from the factory with the American made, or like Michelin or something like that?
This gentleman's asking if they make different tires besides what comes on them, or different brands.
Right.
There is a brand that I really like, and it's a Goodyear Endurance that's made for trailers. It's the only one made here in America at this point, and that just got started a few years back. We have sold several sets. I really like them, and of course you can still get factory ones too. I would pick my tires on how I travel. If you're the guy that goes out west for 4 months and travels and puts on 9,000, 8,000 miles, I would probably be talking to my tire guy about an upgrade, a heavier, tire that can be put on. If you're the person that just goes 40 minutes away 6 times a year, I would stay with what's on it. That all goes back to how you travel and what you do. Any other questions on the tires? All right, tank maintenance. So our fresh water system. Have anybody ever been camping or been in a camper where they turn the water on and it smells like kind of like rotten eggs? So that happens when you leave water sitting in the camper in the summertime. It gets stagnant and causes that odor. One way to prevent that is drain the unit out when you're through camping by use of the low point drains, opening those or taking the caps off, and then open the kitchen sink faucet. It's usually, or the shower, something up high. Then take the plug out of the water heater and leave it like that to your next camping trip. You won't have an odor problem. If you get into the situation where for whatever reason it happens to you, there is some products to fix that. This one works real well. We use it here. This happens to be Spring Fresh. Basically, if you end up using that, follow the directions on that. That is a cleaner and a sanitizer, so it's got to be flushed out after you do it. But it does a great job. But again, if you'll keep that camper drained out in between uses, especially in the hot summertime, you should never have that problem. The other thing I like to use on our freshwater system is this little guy right here. It's just a little 90-degree brass little elbow that goes on the city water connection. So your hose is hanging straight down instead of bending on the city water connection. Very handy little gadget to have, and the other thing it allows you to do, speaking of the water system, is a filter. Hangs right below it, works great. Use it for a year, toss it at the end of the season. Even if you don't use a filter though, this little guy right here is a nice little accessory. It can go either place. I like to hang it there so it's in the air and it's not laying on the muddy ground. I mean, it can go either end. Any other questions on the freshwater? And then it leaves the black tank. So we get the calls all the time. I just dumped my camper and it still says 2/3 full on the black tank. Yeah, it does happen. Inside those tanks, there's a monitor for each level. And this occurs in the black tank more than the gray or the fresh because they're solid and liquid in there. Now, something gets stuck to that 2/3 monitor and it thinks there's that much in there, and that's what you're seeing. So that goes back to a few things. First of all, the type of chemical you use makes a big difference. There is thousands of brands out there. This is the best I know of. It's called NewGen. We use it here in the shop on our trade-ins to clean them out. This product recommends 2 ounces per 40 gallons. Got the little squeeze here. So if your tank is saying 2/3, one good way to fix that is put about 6 ounces or 8 ounces in there. Fill it up and let it sit a day or two. Dump it. Most of the time that is going to fix it. I can't tell you the difference between this stuff and the others. It's huge. That will generally do it. If not, this is called a toilet wand. Toilets are generally set right on top of the black tanks in campers, so when you open the toilet, you're looking right down in the tank. So this, you drop down there, it spins and sprays and cleans it out. Of course, you need to be hooked up and have the black tank open while this is running. And let it run 15-20 minutes. That can help with that situation. And it's also a good idea, I think, especially at the end of the season, to clean that out real thoroughly. Now, a lot of your campers have this built in. It's called a black tank flusher. You hook your hose up to it, and it runs to the black tank and sprays it out. Just make sure your black tank valve is open before you turn the water on. It can get messy if you don't. Unfortunately, we've seen that happen. The other thing that causes that in the black tank is use of the toilet. At home, we flush the toilet, gallon and a half of water, shoves everything away. In the camper, we generally jump up from the toilet, mash the pedal, everything's gone, out the door. And you might have put a cup and a half of water in there. That's where the problems start. Hold that pedal down a little longer, and if you got a bunch of kids and you don't know what they're doing, before you dump, fill it up to full, fill it up to 2/3, then let it dump. But keeping that liquidy is really key on the maintenance of the black tank. Yes, sir.
Sure, if you go with a bunch of nieces and granddaughters and all that, explain to them what they're not allowed to put in.
This gentleman's saying be sure and explain what can go in the toilet if you have a crew going with you.
Oh, yes,
We had 5 girls, all in the pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pyramid time.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
The other thing is, if everybody doesn't know it, when you're at a full hookup, you still have to keep that black tank closed and use a chemical. I don't care if it's full time, it never moves, you still have to keep that tank closed and use a chemical. All right, well, they're giving me the word to wind it up. Thank everybody for coming. I hope y'all have a wonderful new year. I think it's going to be a lot better than last. Thanks again for coming, guys.